All right, so let's get into this. Imagine a band so powerful, so explosive, that their own city basically said, nope, can't handle it. That's the story of Bad Brains. Their legend, it was literally forged because their hometown kicked them out.
Now, this wasn't like some official decree from the mayor or anything. No. It was more like a shadow ban. All the club owners got together and created this unofficial blacklist because they were just terrified of the raw energy this band brought. But here's the crazy part. Getting rejected didn't shut them up. It's what turned this local DC band into an absolute global legend.
So, to really get how this all went down, you gotta picture late 1970s Washington, D.C. The city was just simmering, full of all this social and racial tension. It was basically the perfect pressure cooker for a whole new kind of rebellion to explode.
And into this scene, which was super independent, very DIY, but also, let's be real, predominantly white, in walk these four young black musicians. Look, Bad Brains didn't just join the DC punk scene. Their very presence was a revolutionary act. They challenged everything just by plugging in their guitars. It totally set the stage for a massive revolution in sound.
Okay, and this is where the story gets kinda wild, almost unbelievable. You gotta understand, this wasn't just some group of kids who picked up guitars and decided to make a bunch of noise. No way. Their background was, well, it was something else entirely. Get this. Before they were these hardcore punk pioneers, they were a jazz fusion band. Yeah, a super technical, brilliant jazz fusion band called Mind Power. So they had these musical chops that were just completely unheard of in the punk scene. I'm talking complex rhythms, sophisticated harmonies, the whole deal. And when they found punk rock, they took all that incredible skill and just channeled it like a fire hose into pure, raw, unbelievable speed.
And it wasn't just their sound that was different. Their whole mindset was on another level. I mean, you had all these other punk bands singing about nihilism and despair, right? But Bad Brains, they were on a totally different wavelength. They were getting into the Rastafarian faith and were all about something they called PMA, positive mental attitude. So just imagine that combination. This incredibly fast, almost violent music, paired with this message of spiritual strength. It was just mind-blowing.
Look, their records are absolutely legendary for sure. But if you really want to get the myth of Bad Brains, you have to understand what it was like to see them live. That's where it all happened. The stage is where the legend was truly forged.
Seeing Bad Brains live, man, it was like stepping into a hurricane of energy. This wasn't just a concert, It was a full-on physical event, almost like a small earthquake that pushed every single person in that room to their absolute limit.
And the sound itself was just overwhelming. You had Dr. No on guitar unleashing this flood of impossibly fast riffs. Earl Hudson on the drums was just a masterclass in pure, controlled chaos. And the songs? A lot of them were over in less than a minute. Bam! It was a total sonic assault.
And right at the center of the storm was the frontman, HR. He wasn't just singing. He was like a lightning rod for all the band's energy. Just a blur, a whirling dervish doing backflips, leaping into the crowd. It was this intense, almost spiritual performance that didn't just captivate the audience, it flat out electrified them. So for the fans, this was everything. This intense, shared chaos was a total release. They were right there with the band, pretty much inventing things like the mosh pit and stage diving on the fly. But for the club owners, yeah, this started looking less like an amazing artistic experience and a lot more like a huge, expensive liability. In all of this, the speed, the energy, the chaos, it all leads right to the core of their legend. The one thing that cemented their status in music history, being banned in DC.
So by the early 80s, things got real. It became almost impossible for Bad Brains to get a gig in their own city. All the rumors suddenly became a reality. The most explosive band in DC was effectively silenced. The big question is, why?
Again, there was no official piece of paper from the government, but the club owners, they basically made their own blacklist. And it really boiled down to four things. 1, the crowds were getting intense, seen as dangerous. 2, the mosh pits were literally breaking the floors and equipment in these clubs. 3, the insurance costs and the fear of lawsuits were skyrocketing. And 4, you have to remember, mainstream America already thought punk rock was just for delinquents. Bad Brains became the poster child for all those fears.
So, in a weird way, being too intense for DC became the coolest thing about them. It was the single biggest piece of their entire mystique. The band pushed them out of town, they ended up in New York, and of course their wild reputation got there before they did.
The very thing that was supposed to shut them down ended up being a megaphone, broadcasting their legend to the rest of the world.
And getting kicked out of D.C., it didn't slow them down one bit. In fact, it's what cemented their legacy as the true architects of this whole new sound. See, they weren't just another band in the hardcore scene. They literally wrote the blueprint for it.
Think about it. They laid out a clear blueprint for everyone else. First, there was speed. For them, it wasn't just about playing fast. Speed was the entire point, the aesthetic. And they did it with insane technical precision. Second, they smashed genres together. They would be playing a blistering hardcore song and then boom, drop a totally authentic roots reggae track right in the middle of the set. Nobody was doing that. And third, they gave the whole movement a philosophy, PMA, positive mental attitude.
Honestly, you can't even measure their influence. It's that big. You can literally trace their musical DNA everywhere. You see it in the DC scene with bands like Minor Threat, you hear it in New York hardcore with the Cro-Mags, it bleeds into thrash metal. Heck, even artists like the Beastie Boys and Nirvana pointed to them as a major influence. They created a shockwave that's still rippling out today.
So what does happen when art becomes too powerful to be contained? Well, the story of Bad Brains is pretty much the ultimate answer, isn't it? It shows you that when the establishment, or even just your local scene, tries to shut down something truly revolutionary, all it really does is hand them a bigger microphone. Being banned in DC didn't break Bad Brains, it made them immortal.